So it was hard work. She was, what can I tell you, just a wonderful woman. The other thing is, and I'm going to backtrack a bit. During the war, when the Greek army was unfortunately, with Hitler and everybody, we lost the war. We don't like to admit it, but we did. And when the Greek army was finally retreating, because of a geographic location where we are, they had to go through our town, all of the Greeks who lived south of Thessalia, Peloponnesus, Crete, Athens, that whole area, Lamia, everybody that lived south of Thessaly had to go through where we are. And the women like my mother, they will make clothes, socks, bread, and wait for them and go out and feed them and help them to go home. This was the original Greek woman, the original Greeks. And that's how that country survived, because of people like that. And I just want to thank everybody for honoring her tonight. And thank you very much. And I'm sorry that I lost it. I'm not like that. I usually like to talk because I'm a storyteller like most Greeks are. and thank you very much. She deserves the honor that we're giving her tonight.
Say a little bit the country, how your father used to cut the wood and bring it to the poor. And the mother would bake for the poor and no bread.
My mother, but that's the Greek thing is, that's how the Greeks have survived for all these years, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years, who the hell knows? They did because when we're in a pinch, we help each other. And as poor as we were, this woman and my father, they will always help the poor. There was always room in our house, as small as it was. I remember as a young boy, we always had people sleeping over. We never saw them before. We never saw them again. These were people that were traveling and they needed help. I remember I remember the war per se because I was born in 1940 during the war. But I remember after the fact, and certainly I remember the communists. Now, this is an example. She was such a fanatic with all these things that were going on. When the communists had these demonstrations in our town, and they will come down with flags and everything and say, "We're going to bury you," she will run in a procession and tear the flags away from them. And because there was this is the Greek uprising, unfortunately there were brothers fighting against brothers. She had cousins who were high officers in the Communist Party. And they went to my grandmother and said, "Tell her to mind her own business, because if something happened to us, she's going to be killed." You think she listened? Of course not. She didn't listen. And that's how it was. They knew what they wanted. She was a freedom fighter. She was a supporter. She saved lives. We had Greek soldiers whose lives were saved by her and my father, coming back after the war, looking her up and say, "You know what? I'm alive today because of you." And that's really what happened. And then when we came to this country, thank God, it was the best thing that ever happened. We work hard. I think they've done very, very well. And I only wish them, my father, who died, and he died prematurely because the doctor said if he didn't smoke, he would have lived to be 102. And he was taken from us. But you know what? Thank God that we ended up the way we did. And we are very, very proud. And we want to thank everybody tonight for being here. And again, I apologize for my behavior. I think it's terrible. I'd like to know, thank you. Is anybody else like to say something? You're more than welcome. You know everybody here. You know my brothers, my sisters. My brother Nick, by the way, I got to say something because he's the host here. My brother Nick, being the youngest, he was the baby. My father was determined that he will go to college days, not nights like me. I was 38 years old and I was still going to school. And he says, "Bre, pedi mujeres que como escolheu passa." So anyway, my brother Nick was going to be the first college graduate in the family. And it turned out that he was. He was so determined that he said to me, "I will mortgage the house." I said, "What the hell? You don't have anything else." I'm going to mortgage the house. He's going to go to school. And he's going to finish the way he should. And he did. And Nicky turned out to be a good boy. Yeah. So, and that's all. Oh, one more thing. And my father said to me, you know, he's going to school. He needs a car. All right. And he always come to me, you know. He says, you have that damn Volvo, whatever you call it. He says, you know, you should give it to him. Right. So I used to have this Volvo that I bought back in 1961 before I went in the Army. And he said, and Nick, of course, he loved the car, and I knew he knew how to drive it because he was always practicing when I wasn't looking. And I don't know if he remembers, but Nick said to me, can we take this car for a ride? I want to, you know, you can show me if I do it right. And he drives. Now, mind you, this car was free. And he drove straight to the gas station and filled it up, and it was $6. And he said to me, will you pay? And I said, wait a minute, I'm giving you a free car. You want me to fill your tank too? You know? Yeah, but that's how it was. Yeah, and another rule that was in the family was that we always had a family car. My father never drove because he wouldn't give up drinking. He says, when I want to have a glass of whiskey or something, I don't want to take the responsibility of driving. Therefore, I don't want to drive. But we're going to have a car and take the family out and do the errands and so forth. And then when he or she got married, we'll take the car and leave. And then he'll buy another car. Usually a used one. Yeah. So, and then the same thing, like when Georgia, my sister Georgia, Presbyterian, married Father Nicky, right? Am I right?
You're right.
They left with a comet, right? Mercury comet. They left with it. You go home and they say, where's the car? What's Okay. So they left with a car, you know.
And he insisted.
And he insisted.
That's my old car.
Yeah, he had his own car.
He insisted that Yiayia's car, she has to take it with her.
Yeah.
You told me that tonight.
Yeah, and that's the truth. That's. But there was always a car in the house, but he was not the driver. He didn't want to drive. Yeah.
Blessed house.
And
many children.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My father was a bootlegger, by the way. Yeah. This old Greek in the neighborhood. Listen to this. I think this is important. Listen to this one. An old Greek passed away in our neighborhood, and he left on his will to his son. No, ήταν πώς τη λέγανε τη γριά που άφησε για το Τσίπρο μητέρα, που άφησε τα βαρέλια. The old lady next door to Janela's. The Janela's, yeah. When he died, he used to be a bootlegger back in the 20s with Al Capone, I guess, you know. And the still and all everything was in his basement. When he passed away, he left on his will to his son, his only son, I want you to deliver the still to Arthur, my father, because he was the only one capable of making bootleg, you know, ouzo. And he did. So the first time, chipuro, the first time we were making chipuro, yeah, he would go to the train where the freight trains will come with the grapes, and he would be like climbing the freights. In fact, my brother Peter he would go with him, and they would bring like 30, 40 crates of grapes to make chipuro ouzo. Well, the first time when we started that, we couldn't get it out. You know, the things, as you know, that's distilled liquor, and you boil the heck out of it, and steam is pouring out and everything, but nothing's coming out. And my mother comes over, and he says, the way you guys are going, you'll never get a drop out of this, because you're not doing it right. So we had to redress all the tubing and everything else, and then the stuff was coming out. My mother was getting sick from the smoke, and she says, you know, I have to leave. So she would go to my sister Jean's house. And my father and me, and I think my brother Peter, when he was home, we would stay continuously 24 hours, whatever it took until we get all the batches out. And someone said to my father, listen, you know, Arthur, that's illegal. And if you, yeah, but you know something? But this guy was the cop from across the street. So what the old man did, he had the cop over as a guest too, drinking. And he says, if we get arrested, we'll have a cop with us too. You know, so how can we be so wrong, you know?
But you allowed like 3.5 gallons.
Yeah, but we were making, what, 20 gallons? We were making, we were supplying everybody, yeah. No, not for money. Just, yeah. Everybody who visited the house walked out with a bottle. And that was it. But you know what? This was the simple life even in this country. And it was just a wonderful time for everybody. Okay. Thank you.
Last family, 7 children. They had 9 to survive. Right?
I remember also saying to my father, because we talk like man to man after 40 years, I said to him, why so many children? You know, we went through so much. And if you didn't have so many children, we would have been all right. And he looks at me like what the hell are you talking about? He says, well, he says, you know, God gives you the children. He says, you know, what are you talking about? Yeah. Ο Θεός τα δίνει τα παιδιά. No TV. And that was it. That was the answer. You know, you just didn't argue beyond that. And that's how, you know, the Greek people were those days. They were honest, and they were just nice, hard-working people. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Theo.
You gotta make me look good when I cry, man. I never cry.
Yes.
Okay.